All right, so today's session, right, it's a short session, short 20-minute session. I'm just covering some thoughts on Elon Musk's recent comment on, he made during the Q3 earnings, whereby he said that he might drop by saying Tesla can be worth more than Apple and like Saudi Aramco combined. And these two, for context, right, these are the top two companies in the world right now, at least based on market cap. So a combined market cap of like about 4.3, 4.4 trillion, about that. So when Elon Musk made that statement, is implying that Tesla will be like 4.5 trillion, right? So of course there will be the usual haters or dumpers who say, hey, Elon Musk saying this to pump the Tesla stock so that he can sell at higher price to fund his like Twitter sales and Twitter's purchase. All right, so definitely there are all these kind of comments. So there's, I think, no right and wrong is based on one's own assumption. So for me, right, the way I see it, I feel like this, because he said this during the earnings, right? So I feel like it's a prepared statement. So it's not like something that he suddenly inspired or off the cuff comment, off the fly. He just anyhow suddenly say, because it was a prepared statement. So when he prepared it, I think he obviously put some thought into it, and I think there's some seriousness into it. So because of that, as a Tesla bull, obviously I got excited. But being the logical, rational guy, of course I want to see is it possible or not. Right, and I think maybe just just curious also, what do you guys think? Like Tesla 4.5 trillion market cap. For context also, Tesla right now is only about even after recent drop, it's about 700 billion. All right, and maybe at its peak it was about 1 trillion plus, right? So to get to 4.5 trillion, what do you guys think? You guys think it's possible, right, or impossible, right? So if you think it's possible, type 1. If you think it's impossible, or like Elon is talking rubbish or just saying it to pump the Tesla stock, type 2 in the chat box. So I'm just curious, what do you guys think also? Right, some of you say 1. What about the rest? Do share in the chat box, right? 1 or 2. 1 if you think it's possible. 2 if you feel like it's a bit impossible, right? Or perhaps Elon has other agenda for saying that. All right, and some of you say 1.5, right? So you are undecided on the fares. I think that's good to keep an open mind on things. All right, so I for one would like to think that I look at track record. So I think Elon has of course said a lot of impossible stuff before, like impossible stuff, then end up he achieved it. Like I think back in 2017, he did say that Tesla will be worth more than Apple, right? Apple valuation back then. All right, so and then end up during that time, right, 2017 is just 5 years ago. A lot of people also say, Elon, you crazy. Like the media opinion him as, oh, he's trying to pump the stock 5 years ago. But end up he did achieve what he set out to what he set out to achieve. All right, so I wouldn't, so because he had done a lot of impossible things before, I wouldn't exactly bet against him. But at the same time, I want to see, how is it possible? So Elon got this goal, and how exactly is he going to achieve this 4.5 trillion target? Right, so let's break down the maths behind it, right, to understand the potential pathway better. So to do that, right, I did input a few assumptions. So during the Elon Musk, during the Q3 earnings, right, Tesla Q3 earnings, Elon did said that this calculation, right, doesn't include Optimus. All right, so even like, because a lot of people know that Optimus, the total addressable market is really huge, and that is really one of the growth optionality over the next few years. But Elon said that it doesn't include Optimus, so I will assume because that include Optimus, the time frame is actually much shorter, because Optimus is like maybe like 5-6 years down the line. All right, so I was assume because of that, right, Elon time frame is much shorter, maybe before 2030. All right, and it primarily just include cars, FSD, and maybe just energy. All right, so these are my assumptions. Of course, the assumption can change, or you can change the assumption to fit into your own TC stuff. But for the sake of this is a simple calculation, I mean inputting these assumptions. All right, and for this this maths breakdown, right, I only use cars and FSD because it's easiest, and there's the easiest data for me to extrapolate, and I did not include any energy. In the future, I would assume like sales of energy and battery packs will definitely move the needle for the bottom line for Tesla, but for now I will just exclude it. Right, so there's a few variables that we want to have. Right, so firstly, and this will start by covering. Firstly, right, what's the valuation that we are assigning Tesla when it's at 4.5 trillion? So 4.5 trillion is a price, the market cap, right? So at this market price, 4.5 trillion, what is the PE ratio or valuation that the market is assigning to Tesla? And secondly, right, how much Tesla need to make on an annual basis, right, to achieve this valuation or achieve this market cap, and to achieve this amount to achieve number two, right, the earnings. Then also we need to know how many cars Tesla is going to sell. So right now we are doing a bit of like reversing the process, reverse engineering the process to see how can Tesla get there, just to see what's the possibility to paint the path. So I give an analogy. For example, today if I want to climb Mount Everest, the peak of Mount Everest, and right now I'm at base camp. Right, I look up, it's like so hard, so far, so impossible. But I need to plan the path there. What is my path to get to the peak of Mount Everest? Right, so similarly, let's say 4.5 trillion is the peak, right? This is the end goal, at least for now. Right, what is the pathway to get there? So these are the variables that will be critical in this assumption, in this model. So number one, valuation, right? Like just use a simple, there's different ways to value a company, especially a growth company, but just use a simple one because to chunk it down to layman so that everyone understands it will be to use a PE ratio, right? And I think Peter Lynch said before, like what PE to assign a company, right? You can just use their growth rate. So for example, if a company is growing at 20%, it's quite fair to use a PE or price over earnings of multiples of about 20. All right, if the company is a slower growth, growing only at 10%, then maybe you use a lesser PE because the market is not going to pay so much for a slower growth. All right, so maybe a PE of 10. So if the growth rate is 10%, then you assign a PE of 10. Right, if the growth rate is 25, you assign a PE of 25. So right now, I would say Tesla is growing at about 50%. Right, so for a company that's growing at 50%, what do you think is a fair PE ratio to assign to Tesla? Right, type in the chat box. Just curious, what do you guys think? What do you think is a fair valuation? We talk about PE, price over earnings. What do you think is a good, or fair or conservative price over earnings that you guys would assign to Tesla? Is it 50? Is it 100? Is it 20? All right, let me know in the chat box. Right, Alvin said 50. What about the rest? What do you guys think? Right, so for me, right, I think 50 might be fair, right? But if you were to be conservative, I think most of you here are Singaporeans or Malaysians. Most of us might be a bit more conservative. So it's okay to be a bit more conservative in our buffer. Let's assume a lower PE. All right. And with valuation, right, sometimes it does fluctuate a bit based on market sentiments. Like right now, with the market drop, with all these bearish sentiments, bearish macros, right? Price multiples are a bit on the lower side. Right, a bit on the lower side, but sometimes you can swing up and down. So it won't be a static fixed point. Right. So I'm going to say 42.69%, right? That's a good one. All right. So it really depends. So I would say 30 would be a fair one. Right. For a company that's growing at 50%, I assign a 30 multiple. I think that's fair. Now, so I know that 30 is the figure that we think is fair. I got a price ready now. The price is the market cap, which is 4.5 trillion. So in this equation, price over earnings equal 30, right? If I already got a price, then I can figure out the earnings, right? So those of you who still remember your primary school maths, how to calculate the earnings? If my price is 4.5 trillion and this is 30, what is my earnings? Can anyone do a simple maths calculation for me? Right, or maybe most of you forget, you're just waiting for answer. Right, so let's not tell me the way code, right? So I'm just going to share. So this is just simple maths calculation. To get the earnings, right? You just switch it over to the other side. All right, so we just take price over 30, all right, so which is 4.5 trillion over 30. That will give me earnings of about 150 billion. All right, so which means Tesla to achieve a market cap of 4.5 trillion. Let's say, let's go with Elon, this crazy, outrageous statement. And just to see how is it possible. Let's say to make it possible, right, to achieve a 4.5 trillion market cap, this is the price, right, the one in purple. And we assign a 30 multiple, which means that Tesla each year, right, on an annual basis, they need to be producing a net income or net earnings of about 150 billion. B for billion, not million, right? B for billion, there's 9 zeros. 1 B represent 9 zeros, right? 150 billion. Okay, so now we got number 2 already, right? So I'm working backwards. Firstly, we got a valuation. I assign 30. So you can assign a lower one if you want. If you no, Tesla don't deserve 30. The Tesla deserves 25, right? Then you just adjust accordingly. For this example, I'm just using 30. Okay, so earnings, right? 150 billion. Next is To make 150 billion, how many cars Tesla need to sell? Right, because Tesla, right, at least right now, they are primarily selling cars, FSD, and maybe energy, right, and maybe all these, robot taxis and Optimus. Let's talk about it later. But right now, primarily, their growth and their revenue, their profit margins come from just cars and FSD. Right, so let's use that as a calculation. How many cars does Tesla need to sell? All right, so number of cars that Tesla need to sell. And how do we arrive at number of cars? We take the total earnings. We want to find out the total number of cars, right? We need to find out what is the profit that Tesla make per car. One car. I sell one car. What is my bottom line net profit? Right? Because if I have that figure, I have this figure for profit per car, then I can take the net earnings, which I already have is 150 billion, divided by this. I will know the next figure which I need, which is the total number of cars that Tesla need to sell to achieve the market cap of 4.5 trillion. Yes? Right. So far I'm just doing simple math, reversing the re-engineering the process. Again, the goal is to get the Mount Everest. I'm just reversing the process. Okay, what is like 2 steps behind? What do I need to do to get there? All right, so number of cars that Tesla need to sell. All right, so let's look at, so let me expand this. All right, this is just a picture I got from FinTweet, all right, Twitter, all right, but it does give us the information that we need. So we can see ASP over here is average selling price per car. And the column you want to look at, I think, is the blue one. All right, so the most latest, the dark blue one. All right, so let's just assume it's about 50K. So of course, these numbers are rough numbers. Okay, rough numbers. So it can be a bit more, a bit less. But we know that the net income per car is about 10,000. Over here, 10,000. So we know that maybe the margin is about 20%. And we also do know that over the last few quarters, the operating margin has been increasingly, trending up, which is great because as Tesla scale up, the cost of goods and they get more efficient. There's economics of scale inside. So the operating margin will tend to go up. All right, but that's just, and I did not factor that in, but let's just use what we have today. Let's assume the operating margin, operating efficiency does not go up, all right, and they just stagnate at this percentage. All right, so every car they sold at an average selling price of 50K, they make a net of 10,000. Right, 10,000. So let me close up this. All right, so you can see here I just do some deduction. Average selling price 50K less your COG, your cost of goods sold. Right, you have some gross profit, maybe less some of your HQ cost. Your operating profit is about 10K net, 10K per car. All right, so why are we doing this again? Because we want to get this figure profit per car. Then we can get the total numbers of cars because we already have net earnings 150 billion. If we can get this figure, then we will know Tesla need to sell or need to produce how many cars per year to backfill this market cap valuation of 4.5 trillion that Elon Musk is talking about. Right, so now we know each car they sell, we make 10K profit roughly. Okay. Then next. Each car they sell, they also can upsell the FSD, full self-driving. All right, full self-driving. And right now the cost, right, that I'm looking at, right. Okay, so let me expand this. So I think Elon and Tesla has been increasing the price over the quarters. Right, you can see along this chart here, and this is no secret that Elon Tesla plans to slowly increase the price because as the FSD gets better, there's more value provided to the driver. Just imagine one day if FSD is really super tight that I can hop onto it. I close my eyes, I can take a nap, I can do other things. It's improve my productivity. Will you pay for extra? This is like maybe a year kind of amount. So yeah, I think some drivers will pay for this. But let's just assume that the price capped at 15K. All right, but maybe not every driver will want to buy this. Some people prefer to drive the car themselves. They don't want to sleep inside the car because they just don't want. All right, so let's assume a take rate of only 50%. So FSD is at 15K. But let's say not everyone take it. Not everyone will choose to take up this upsell, this FSD upsell. So let's assume a 50% take rate. All right, and so half of it, you halve it, which is 7.5K. If you feel that I think more people will take maybe 80%, then you increase. Do the math accordingly. If you feel it's lesser, maybe only 30%, then you reduce this figure. But for me, I think 50% is quite conservative amount. Right? So every car they sell, they make not just 10K, but then an additional 7.5K average out. Right? So you take 10K plus 7.5K, right? You will have roughly profit per car, right? You will roughly have a net profit of 17.5K. Yes? And again, 7.5K is this figure that we want to get. Profit per car. right? And then we will have this. Just put here. So you see, net earnings is 150 billion, right? Which is the one we arrived earlier. And so we are just reversing the maths. 150 billion. If we know that this is 70.5k profit, and then we will end up with 8.5 million cars. Yes. So I know the number sounds very big, but if you just do the maths accordingly, you can double check also, make sure I never miss out 1 0 or accidentally add in one more zero. Right? So you get 8.5 million cars. So we know that for Tesla, to recap again, for Tesla, for Elon Musk to hit this 4.5 trillion market cap and assigning, let's say, a conservative PE of 30, we know that each year, Tesla need to make 150 billion. And how to make this amount of money? They need to sell cars. And how many cars they need to sell? They need to sell 8.5 million cars, which sounds like a lot. Yes. But we also know that Tesla is right now, they are ramping up their factories, especially the new ones in Berlin and Texas, right? So what is the timeline to get there? We know that Tesla is on the way there. Maybe they will hit there, maybe they won't. But based on the run rate right now, what is a conservative estimate that will tell us how many years that Tesla needs to get to produce 8.5 million cars per year, right? So we are at number 4 right now, which is the timeline that we want to figure out. So right now, right, the runway for Tesla to hit 8.5 million cars per year. This is not total, but per year. Right now, we know that right now we are in 2022, and 50%. I think Elon Musk has said Q4 they should be on track. Of course, anything can happen, but bearing any worst case scenarios, we should be on track for 1.5 million production rate. Right, production rate. And again, I did not focus too much on deliveries because, and also the last quarter, people have said, hey, deliveries kind of drop. But I feel that if they are selling every car they produce, then every car they produce already got a buyer already. So delivery is not an issue. It's just they deliver earlier, a bit later. And if they deliver later, just to save a bit of the shipping costs and all that, why not? Right? There's no downside to it, the way I see it. Right? So I'm more focused on the production because right now Tesla is selling every single car they produce. Right? So delivery is not an issue. Right? Demand is not an issue, delivery is not an issue. So I'm focusing more on the production. So let's just extrapolate this. Right? We know that Tesla right now, the growth rate is about 50%. So next year, 1.5 million cars, and then you ramp up the factories at 50% growth rate, you will get about 2.2 million. Yes, and then you do it times 50% again, so on and so forth. Right, but of course we want to be a bit more conservative. Over the next few years, maybe the growth rate might start to decline. Right, from 50% to 45% to 40%, so on and so forth. All right, so even buffering in a bit of a decline for the growth rate, right, the production numbers will look something like that. All right, so you can double check the maths, right? But basically what I do is I just take this figure times this figure, all right? And I will get, so we can see here, right? By the year 2027, we will get to this amount, which is about 8.7 million vehicles. And why are we so fascinated with 8.7 million? Because above, right, the number of cars we need to achieve this valuation is 8.5, which we covered just now, right? So I want to know right now is how many years for Tesla to get there, to produce 8.5 million vehicles per year. Right, so you can see, so this simple math, this one is given, this year, today, we already have this, all right? We want to get to this. So from here to here, how to get there? All right, right now the growth rate is here, so we just multiply a simple math now. So I just plan the pathway, and it seems like in a few years, 5 years, so from 2022 to 2027 is about 5 years, all right, we will get there to hit this 8.5 million, production of cars per year. It seems like a lot, but actually, if you work backwards, actually, like how compounding works or how mathematics works, is not that. You put it on Excel spreadsheet, then you can see things a bit clearer. Because like human beings, we see linearly, we cannot see exponential. So when you put it on a graph, then everybody can see, double check the math, is it correct? And then it's easier to visualize. I'm not saying like, this is for sure, but at least now we know how to get there. We know what are the things to check on. Next year, the first thing to check is production got 2.2 million. At least we know what are the numbers, what are the KPIs. All right. So the next thing that investor will ask is, what do you mean solid? So 5 years, you mean Tesla will hit that 4.5 trillion milestone. All right. So, and if they do hit it, what is the ROI for the investor, right? So let me talk a bit about it. So there's something that everyone would be curious, myself included, right? So the first thing I did after I worked this out is work out, so how much return do I get from investing in Tesla, right? So how many of you are interested in this, right? If you're interested in this, right, type me or type something in the chat box, let me know. Right, I understand there's some questions which I missed earlier. Later I will backtrack to cover them during a Q&A right at the end. Right, so but let me just run through everything first. Right, so the ROI for investors, right? I think most of us are interested. Right, so maybe I just use I tell you what, why not I use a calculator? It's easier. All right, so you can see this compound annual growth rate calculator, right? And right now we know that it's about 5 years, right? And we will get from, okay, our market cap, Tesla market cap right now is how much? It's about 700 billion market cap, because our angle is 4.5 trillion. And right now we are at 700 million. So from 700 million to 4.5 trillion, how many times is that? Right, so you divide out 4.5 trillion divided by 700 million, that will give you about a 6.4x. All right, I did this just now, all right, but if you can work it out, it's about 6.4x. Right, so which means whatever amount we invest, let's say right now I have $10,000. So you can input any amount you want, but let's say it's $10,000 for easy calculation. A 6.4x means the angle will be 640% more, right? So it's 74000. Right, so far okay. And then the number of years to get there. Right now we are in 2022, and we are based on the calculation. It seems like Tesla will get to this 4.5 trillion market cap in 2027. That is 5 years from now, all right, or 6 years, depending on how you count it. All right, so but let's say 5 years. So if I calculate, ta-da, I will receive a compounded annual growth rate of about 50%. All right, which is pretty decent. Right, which is actually in line with their growth rate. Right, so actually, if you actually I use this as a double check. That means, like, for example, if I know that the company is growing at 50% run rate, right? What is my annual compounded return? It's about the same also, plus or minus a bit. Right, so this proves that I think it's about there, right? But let's just go back to the Excel spreadsheet. Right, so I actually did this beforehand. Well, first later you can play around with the calculator on your own. Just Google 𝐒𝐤𝐤 calculator, and then you put your own numbers and then play around with it. All right. So which means the stock return, right now we are at 700 billion. So right now we are at 700 billion, and we are looking at 2027 4.5 trillion. Right. So that is a 6.4x in 5 years, which implies obviously 600. So 6.4x is not 64% return. Is so 1x is you double, correct? 1x double is 100% return. 2x is you triple, that is 200% return. So 6.4x is 640% ROI, or a CAGR of about 49%. So CAGR actually just means like over the next 5 years, your $10,000 or whatever amount you have, right? They just compound at 40. They just round it to 50, okay? Compound at 50%. So next year it will be 15K, and then 15K times 50% is like maybe 22K, and then 22K times another 50% growth, there will be 33K, so on and so forth. All right, of course there are different variations to this. This is like a calculation that I just do up in 5-10 minutes. All right, and if you're on your own, you can input different variations, because you can say like, what if the FSD take rate is lesser? Right, this one the take rate is lesser. Will it input your fact calculation? It will. So you can or what if the FSD price, next time Elon Musk want to reduce the price, the average selling price for the second generation car is lower. Maybe this is lower, but then the operating margin per car is higher also. Right? So there's different variations to play around with it. Right? You can have the lower ASP but higher margins. Right? So but the way I did the calculation, I think I allowed for quite a bit of buffer into it. And you can see like I purposely make the growth rate slow down quite a bit. Although in reality, I could like to assume that they will maintain at 50% at least for the next 3 to 4 years, right? But just to be safe, right, I just lower the growth rate. It's always good to be conservative. Okay, and of course, if you feel this one not conservative now, you can be even more conservative with your numbers. So it's a simple calculation. You can do up one for yourself, Excel spreadsheet for yourself, and then you can input some numbers. So summary, right, will be just how I talked about at the start, what we want to, the variables that we need. And right now we have it. All right. So number one is the valuation. I just assign a PE of 30 because I think it's quite fair lah. You know, like all the big techs, their PE is around there. If for a company that's growing at 50% or even 40% and I assign a PE of 30, I think it's low enough, right? But of course, if you feel like I want to assign a PE of 20 for Tesla, then you just lower this multiple and then you work the maths accordingly, right? So if I give a PE of 30, the earnings will be for Tesla to hit this market cap based on this calculation, all right? Because the price is fixed now, 4.5 trillion. This is what Elon Musk said, all right? Elon Musk said that Tesla will be bigger than the top two companies combined, all right, which is based on right now, their total market cap is about 4.3, 4.4 trillion. So let's just round up to more than means it should be a bit more, which is like 4.5 trillion, minimally 4.5 trillion, all right? So multiple of 30, they will give us earnings of 150 billion. So we got 150 billion, all right? And to achieve 150 billion, how many cars Tesla need to sell? All right, so number of cars, we just work backwards over here. All right, we need to know each car, the net profit per car is about 17.5K. Then we can have this mass, right? 150 billion divided by 17.5K per car, we will get about 8.5 million cars that Tesla need to produce per year, right? And then number of years to get there, we know it's 8.5 already over here for the end goal. All right, so here is 4.5 trillion, 8.5 million vehicles to achieve this market cap. And right now we are here, all right? So from here to here, 50% growth rate, you know, factoring a bit of buffer for decline, 5 years on. And then when Tesla get that market cap, so when the market cap hit there, Tesla share price will also move up, right? So when Tesla share price move up, then how much will we make? So how much will you make, right? You just 6.4x, right? So 640%, right? So it's just whatever you have in Tesla right now at this price, it will jump up 6.4x or 6x, right? To be safe, or 5 to 6x. Over the next 5 years, if my wealth can compound at a 5x return or 6x returns, I think that's pretty good. All right, so that is the thesis for investing in Tesla, just a rough one. Right, so, you know, as a Tesla bull, I was just curious and I just work out the maths. Right, so to summarize, right, of course, there are disclaimers along the way. This is just a simple maths calculation. Is it a certainty? No. Obviously, nothing is for sure, nothing is guaranteed. This is just a possibility. And I think Elon Musk have said it himself, like he see a potential path. He didn't say 100% guarantee Tesla will be worth more. He didn't say that. He said it's a potential path. And during this path, there will be a lot of challenges for sure. There's a lot of hard work needed. Right? They need to execute really, really well with their new products, you know, with the expansion plans. Right? And of course, for like outrageous goal like this, right? Of course, a bit of luck is always good. Right? If you have bad luck, then you know sometimes things might not turn out that well. So is it 100% certainty? Not for sure. Right? So for those of you who are invested in Tesla, do take note also, this is not like wow, I guaranteed to have 5x my return in the next 5 years. Not for sure, right? There's a lot of things that need to align, the stars need to align for Tesla to achieve that. All right. Then of course, as an investor, what will I be monitoring? I won't, obviously, we are here right now. Will I just go to sleep and then wake up 5 years later and hope that we are here? Of course not, right? I will be every step, every quarter, every month along the way, at least for me personally, I will be monitoring and then see are we on track. Right? So I think as an investor, the thesis, sometimes we forget that it's not buy and hold and forget. Buy and hold forever, right? What else is buy and monitor. Right? You need to monitor the stocks and adjust accordingly if needed. All right, I think that's about it for this. So again, I always want to keep my sharing short and sweet. All right, I hope you guys find this insightful. If there's any question, right, feel free to type in the chat box. I'll take the next 5-10 minutes to answer some questions.